Okay, today we're going to do lesson 3, which is solving multi-step equations. What that's doing is, like we talked about yesterday, we're going to solve equations all week, so it's just adding on the different ways that we solved, right? So putting in more than just one step. Obviously it'll be 2 or 3 steps to get to your answer, okay? So the first one we're going to look at is if I have 3t plus 7 is equal to negative 8. Gunner. Okay. Gunnar, tell me first, what are we solving for?
T.
T. So if I'm solving for t, what would I need to move away from t first?
7.
Okay. How would I get rid of 7?
Subtract.
So if I subtract 7 from both sides, does that cancel on the left?
Yes.
Yes, because 7 minus 7 is 0. And you would get 3t equal to...
Negative 15.
Good. All right, your last step is to do what?
Divide by 3.
Negative 15 divided by 3 is equal to...
Negative 5.
-5. Okay. All right. Steele, thanks for volunteering. Negative 34 is equal to 6m minus 4.
You're gonna add 4 to each side.
Okay, because that would leave the variable. Is negative 4 plus 4 0?
Yes.
All right. What's negative 34 plus 4?
30. Negative 30.
So I have negative 30 is equal to 6m.
And you're gonna divide 6 from each side.
Okay. Is 6 divided by 6 leave you with just 1m or just m?
M. Yeah.
Okay.
And then 6 divided by 30 is 5.
Flip that, but negative. Good. Okay, so notice every time if there's a number by itself that's not right with the variable, we're going to move that number first, and then we'll take care of the number that's right with the variable. So typically, this is not always the case, because I'll show you an example where it's not the case. You should do addition and subtraction first. Multiplication and division should come second. Okay, no one should have Chromebooks out right now. Okay, Landry. Good, because we just talked about you're going to move what's not right with the variable first. Is 1 minus 1 0? Yep. So that cancels. You're left with r over 9 equal to what?
3.
Okay, and then what would be your last step, Landry, to get r by itself?
Times 9. And then 0.
Okay, is 9 divided by 9 give you 1? So you would have r equal to what?
I don't know.
3 times 9. Don't tell her.
25.
No.
27.
Okay. Now, don't write this down. I just want you to see this because there's always somebody that tries to do it this way. Stone.
Minus 1 on both sides.
Hey. Stone. I'm trying. It's the same problem. I just want to show you something different. Okay. I'll give you the next one. So a lot of times people see this type of problem and say to multiply by 9 first. Is it possible to do that?
Yes.
Yes, it is, but you have to be careful. If I choose to multiply by 9, where else would you need to multiply by 9?
1 times 9.
What else?
4 times 9.
If you choose to do that in the first step, every single term has to get multiplied by 9, right? Because then you would get r plus 9 is equal to 36, subtract 9, and you get r is equal to 27. What happens is people think, oh, I can multiply by 9 here, multiply by 9 here, I have r plus 1 is equal to 36, and then I just subtract 1, and I get r is equal to 35, which is obviously not the correct answer, okay? So, there's a reason that I try to walk you through the steps the same way every time. Move what's not with the variable first, and then do what you need to next, okay? Now, Stone, this one is a little bit different. For what reason? Would you want to add 5 first on this problem, Stone?
No,
Why?
because it's with the variable.
Because the whole thing is written as a fraction. So on this problem, is it okay to multiply by 6 first?
Yeah.
Yes, and you should. So do that for me. Tell me what you get, Stone.
Negative 66.
Is equal to what?
8 minus 5.
Good. Okay. Now the only thing you would have to do to get a by itself would be what?
Add by 5.
What's negative 66 plus 5, Stone?
Negative 61.
Good. Okay. Does everybody see the difference in those two problems? Why it's okay on one to multiply first and why on the other one you should subtract first?
Yes.
Yes? Beautiful. Okay. Anybody want to go and volunteer for the next one?
Me.
Anybody that hasn't gone? Skippy?
Okay. Don't be.
No, you got it.
Reciprocal. Wait, no, do minus 9 first.
Okay, there we go. What's not with the variable, we want to move that first. 9 minus 9 cancels. Skippy, what's 81 minus 9? Okay. Now tell me what you said before.
Reciprocal.
Anytime the fraction is right next to the variable, what are you going to do with the reciprocal? Divide, multiply, add, subtract?
Multiply.
There we go. Okay. Skippy, on the left side, does everything cancel out?
Yes.
Okay. What about on the right side?
2 simplify 7 or 2
What's half of 72?
36.
Stop telling him.
And then you multiply that by 3, which is 108.
Eight. Yes, 108. Okay, good. Olivia? I don't think I've picked on you in a minute. On who, Bailey?
No, me. You haven't called me in like 2 weeks.
I just called on you.
Hey, Joe, will you?
And you said
just
wasn't
broke
calling
it.
you.
Oh.
Joe, before that.
Well, listen, you could volunteer.
No, thanks.
All right, Olivia. I've got 5/6 times k plus 2/3 is equal to 4/3. Okay, am I okay to subtract 2/3 from 4/3 the way it is right now? Stone.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Olivia, what's 4/3 minus 2/3? Okay, so then I have one step to get rid of that fraction and get k by itself. What would that be? Good. Okay, we know 6 and 6 cancel, 5 and 5 to leave us with k. Tell me what simplifies on the other side. To get 1 and... Alright, go ahead and multiply and tell me what you would get for your total. Very good. Lucas, thanks for volunteering, and while you're doing so, why don't you put that on the floor?
Minus 3.6.
Okay, that's a great start. What is 12 minus 3.6?
10.4.
Mm,
9.4. 11.4.
Lucas, what's 12 minus 3? What's 12 minus 3?
Oh, 9.
Okay, so doesn't it have to be less than 9 if we're subtracting 3.6?
Yes.
So it would be,
8.4.
there we go. Okay. All right, Lucas, what would be my last step to get in by itself? That was,
Divide negative 2, or negative 2.4 on this side.
that was rude. Okay, so 8.4 divided by negative 2.4, think about 84 divided by 24. How many times would 24 go into 84?
4. Oh, sorry.
Don't just listen because someone else shouts it out.
I'm sorry.
That doesn't mean they're right. Think about it.
3.
What's 3 times 24?
Pretty big number.
70.
72. 72.
Okay, how far away is 72 from 84?
Not that far.
Come on, we're an honor student, so I expect you to be able to answer this question. How far away is 72 from 84?
12 or yeah,
12. So if it's 12 away, that's half of what we're dividing by, so what would be my decimal? I just gave you the answer.
Half.
What is that as a decimal? There we go. Okay, listen, you guys, here's the deal. Do I realize that you can use a calculator? Yes. Are you capable of doing this in your head? Yes, but some of us would rather just use our calculator every single time than actually use our brain, which is very capable of it, okay? Here's the part we really need to pay attention on because it's new, okay? Stone, you know what I mean? Yeah, let me get through this first. Some of you might want to write this part down. Okay, can anyone raise your hand and tell me if I say consecutive integers, give me an example of what consecutive integers would be, Gunnar?
3 and 4.
Keep going.
5 and 6.
Okay. So 3, 4, 5, and 6, those are consecutive numbers. That means they come right after each other. Okay? Now, if we're trying to solve for consecutive integers, like the problems we're about to do, ask you to find 3 consecutive integers whose sum is equal to like 123. Can anyone tell me what those 3 would be off the top of their head? No, right? So, doesn't it make sense that we could use a formula to solve? Yes. So if I don't know what the first integer is, we're going to call that n. You should pay attention to this. You're going to need it. Okay? So if my first integer is n, how could I find the integer that comes right after it? Look at the example I just used. How could I find the integer that comes right after it? N plus... How would you get from 3 to 4? N plus what? Okay? Consecutive integers, you would add 1 to your first one to get to the second one. What would I add to the first one to get here?
2.
N plus 2. If I wanted another one, you would just keep going. Okay? Depends on how many it asks for. Harley, can you give me an example of any consecutive odd integers? You-
1, 3, 5, 7.
That's good. Okay? So, obviously, they're all odd numbers, and they come right after each other. 1, 3, 5, 7, 9, 13, 15, 17. Okay? Now, same thing. If I didn't know what the first one was, I'm going to call it n. Now on this, how would I skip from the first one to the next one?
Plus 2.
N plus 2. What about to the following?
Plus 4.
N plus 4. Okay? And so on, depending on how many you want. Psi, give me an example of consecutive even integers.
2, 3, 4.
Even.
Evens. Oh, 2, 4, 6.
Okay? Psi, if I didn't know what my first integer was, what would you call it? Okay? And Psi, how would you find the one that comes right after it? And what about the next one? Okay, what do you guys notice about even and odd integers? They all increase by 2's, right? 2, 4, 6, 8, depending on how many you're finding. If they're not even or odd, then they increase by 1 each time. 1, 2, 3, and so on, okay? Now I'm going to show you how we're going to use that to solve for those specific integers, Harley.
If you're using consecutive odd integers, why do you use even numbers?
Because how do I get from 1 to 3?
2.
There's a difference of 2 between them. So it doesn't matter if they're odd or even, there's still a difference of 2 numbers between each one. That's why. Do you see that? Okay. All right, here we go. Caleb. Caleb, we want to find 3 consecutive odd integers whose sum is 141. What does the word sum mean?
Like when they're added all together.
Okay, so I'm going to add the 3 integers, right? And I want them to be equal to 141. So using the information I just gave you, do you know exactly what the 3 numbers are? So what are you going to use to help you find it?
Um,
what would you call the first number?
N.
Good. And then you're going to add the second number. If they're odd, what would be my second number?
N plus 2. Or
You're correct. And then I'm going to add the third number, which would be
N plus 4.
n plus 4. What would I write after that?
N plus 6. N plus 6. Equals 141.
There we go. Why would I not put n plus 6?
Because it says 3.
Because it only asked me to find 3. N is the first one, n plus 2 is the second, n plus 4 is the third. Okay? Caleb, are you capable of solving this?
Yeah.
Okay? What would you do first?
I'm not sure.
Sure you are. What would you do with all those n's?
Add them together.
What's n plus n plus n?
3N.
What's 2 plus 4?
6.
Okay? Now solve for n, Caleb.
Oh. Subtract 6 from both sides.
What's 141 minus 6?
135.
Okay? And then you would do what?
Divide by 3.
What would you get for n? Shh, don't
50.
don't listen to him. You do it. How many times does 3 go into 13?
4.
How many times does 3 go into 15? Okay? Now, Caleb, is this my answer?
No.
Why?
Because there's 3 numbers.
Have I stated 3 consecutive odd integers? What would they be, Caleb?
45, 47, and 49.
Very good. Okay. Anybody want to try the last one? You're rude. Okay, Gunner. All right, Gunner, we're going to do four. Was anyone still writing that down? Joe, did you say yes? Okay. Okay, sorry. We're going to do 4 consecutive integers. Whose sum is negative 142. Okay? All right, Gunner.
Yes.
Do I know a value for any of those 4 integers, an actual value?
No.
No? So what do I start with?
N
Okay, my first one's going to be n. Then what am I going to add to it?
plus 1.
N plus 1 would be my second one. Ooh, sorry.
How do you move those?
Why is it plus 1 and not plus 2?
They're consecutive.
Because they're just consecutive. They're not odd or even. The only time you go by 2s is if it's odd or even. Okay? All right, Gunner, what would be my third integer?
Plus 2
N plus 2. And then my fourth one would be,
plus 3
and then I would say what?
equals negative 1.2.
Very good. Okay, go ahead.
Subtract.
Combine like, tell me what to write out first when I combine like terms.
Oh. 7n.
7,
Oh. Okay.
we're just adding.
10.
Where are you getting 10? How many n's are there?
4.
So what's my, okay, 4n plus what?
Oh. Okay. 6.
Oh, were you adding everything?
Yeah.
I see. Excuse your mouth, Stone. Okay, remember, you add everything that has a variable, everything that does not. Okay, all right, Gunner, solve.
Subtract 6.
Okay, so if I have negative 142 and I subtract 6, what would that give me?
Negative 148.
Okay, and then you're going to,
Divide by 4.
what would you get for n?
37.
Okay, now, Gunner, is that my answer?
No.
What would be my 4 consecutive integers?
37, 38, 39. Negative.
That's only 3.
40.
Okay, do we agree or disagree with Gunner?
And agree because that was
Are you saying no, Steele?
Mm-mm.
Why?
Because there's 5 consecutive integers.
There's 5?
I mean,
That's not the reason. Can anyone tell me the reason that those aren't the correct?
Did you go backwards? Oh, they're not
Because it's negative.
consecutive.
Not because it's negative.
They're not consecutive, right? It's
Okay,
not
so
positive.
look right here. What does it say to add to n? What's negative 37 plus 1? So my then negative 35. No, you didn't. Okay, listen. Hey, hear me when I say this. This is the biggest mistake people make on these problems when it's a negative, because you automatically just start counting up. They need to go back towards 0. Okay? All right, good. We're going to be on page 94. We're doing 12 through 16, 24 through 38, 42 and 44, evens only. Your bonus today is number 52, and on that you only have to do A and B.